The cool thing about building a custom motorcycle is you can take it as far as you want with crazy modifications, or you can make little touches that make the bike just that little bit more unique. That was exactly the case for Marc Sim, who bought a Suzuki TU250X in what would be his first motorcycle and bike build project. Marc was born and raised in Singapore and had only recently relocated to Australia, where it opened up the opportunity for him to start riding motorcycles. Singapore is notorious for some of its strict regulations across the board, which actually makes it an incredibly nice place to visit. However, some of the regulations extend to the limitations on modifying motorcycles. Of course, there are still riders making mods to their bikes, but it's far less accessible for the everyday rider enthusiast to bring their vision to life. And that's not to mention the riding conditions, which Marc admittedly says are quite dangerous despite there being around 140,000 bikes and scooters on the roads. It's a combination of these two things that prevented him from riding motorcycles in Singapore, but it only fueled his desire to get on one when he had the chance to relocate to Western Australia. I've always been fascinated by bikes and cars since I was young, but in Singapore, it's a bit dangerous to ride, and the laws and regulations on custom modifications are really strict. Almost everything back home is fully stock. The first thing I did when I got to Australia was register for my motorcycle license, and I bought this bike before I even did my test and used it as motivation. The Suzuki TU250X is quite a versatile machine that it has a classic aesthetic and is quite a simple motorcycle, yet it still has those modern features and reliability. I've always believed this is the perfect bike for new riders who want to make custom modifications, as it rules out any unreliability factors and is quite easy to transform the look with just a few simple parts. The platform lends itself to being a good looking motorcycle by removing a few components that come standard while making some key adjustments to the styling, and being that it is a 250cc engine, it's extremely rider friendly. It's precisely why Marc fell in love with the Suzuki TU250X. He wanted that classic aesthetic, but didn't want to deal with the reliability issues that generally come with a classic motorcycle. As a new rider and project bike builder, Marc enlisted the help of the renowned Rogue Motorcycle shop to undertake the modifications and supply his list of parts. What started as a slow transformation soon turned into a quickly progressing build with a range of updates, and as Marc admits, he couldn't help himself but change something every time he walked through the doors of the Rogue Motorcycle store. I wanted something small and something I could ride around recreationally. I like the vintage look with modern features and reliability. I researched quite a few bikes. I was going to use this as a daily rider. When I test rode it, I fell in love with it on the spot. I started picking up bits and pieces, and I met Billy from Rogue Motorcycles. He helped me out on the build. It was supposed to be a once a month kind of thing, like one modification a month, but every time I'd go into the store, I'd get something. The customization to this Suzuki TU250X is simple yet effective, and it starts with the frame modification. Billy from Rogue Motorcycles chopped and shortened the rear end, and then fabricated a hoop to complete the finish. The frame modification is somewhat simple, yet it really changes the look of this bike, especially as in standard trim, the frame extends to almost the length of the wheelbase. With the shortened and modified frame comes a new seat, which fits perfectly with the added rear hoop, and of course, a new taillight has been installed alongside a pair of aftermarket indicators. One of the most obvious additions to this bike is the front cowl, which actually required some custom-made brackets to be fabricated. Marc has also changed the bars for a much more stylish option, and the cool part about the front cowl is that it covers up the standard instrument, making for a very clean looking front end. The standard front fender was ditched in favor of one from a Yamaha SR400, which has been modified to fit, and then completing the look of this bike are a set of Shinko tires. It wouldn't be a motorcycle build without an exhaust system, and Marc has used a Lossa engineering muffler that's been welded to the standard headers, making this bike sound much more aggressive than what you would anticipate. You can see from the tank with my name on it, I like my stuff personalized. Building the bike the way I want it to be, it helps me relate to it. When I ride it, I feel a bond with it knowing it's the only build of its kind. I know it's not a cafe racer, brat, or a fixed style, but I think it's an expression of how I am. What Marc has shown with this bike is that you don't need to spend crazy amounts of money or make significant modifications to have a stylish custom motorcycle. What are your thoughts on Marc's custom Suzuki TU250X? Let me know in the comments below. That is it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you're digging it, hit the like button. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you on the next one.